I'm so pleased and excited to introduce the next conversation about the power of Black women in music to inspire social change. Every major social movement has had a soundtrack. Think of Nina Simone and civil rights, or Beyonce's call to action with Formation at the Super Bowl. So it was important to us to highlight Black women's music-making movements. Unfortunately, Simone Eccleston, who was scheduled to lead this conversation, has suffered a sudden loss and cannot be with us this afternoon. We are thinking of her and sending her our condolences and prayers. Stepping in for Simone is the amazing Karen Finney, a CNN political commentator who has served as a spokesperson for the DNC. We crossed paths there as staffers, and Hillary Clinton and Stacey Abrams, among many other leading women. Karen also serves on the boards of NARAL, Ultraviolet, and Power Rising. Singer and artist Mumu Fresh is a musical ambassador of Black and Indigenous culture, whose music has propelled and captivated millions of people around the world. With her vocal contribution to The Roots' Don't Feel Right, she earned a Grammy nomination in 2007. She uses her music and her platform to uplift social issues and serves as a mentor to aspiring artists through Grammy U and her University Studies program. Welcome, Karen and Mumu.
I'm back. Please have a seat. You're going to go right here. I'm just following instructions about where to sit. Wow, what an honor to be back. Now I get to be the moderator. I'm so excited. Please give another round of applause for Mumu. Doesn't she look fabulous? She's fabulous. That pink. You can tell she is, as you've been described, a quadruple threat, serious artist. Look at those fabulous shoes. And I'm like, well, comfort one. So that's where I want to start. Is you have been called a quadruple threat, which I love that. Singer, MC, songwriter, activist. How did you, because I think it's so important when we have these conversations, people always wonder, well, how did you get there? So I'm curious in your career, I mean, you come from a long line of women who are activists and healers. But how did your career form into the different parts? Was it something you knew you wanted, or did the pieces just kind of come to you and fall into place?
Well, I think as we do the work to be comfortable living out the full expansion of who we've always been, who we really are, you'll see the pieces start to fall into place. And you won't mind if it makes others uncomfortable anymore. I think in the beginning, I took harshly the criticism of don't try to do too much. Don't try to be too much. You know, you fit neatly here. This part of you fits neatly here. Just be that. And it was very difficult for me to do that because probably because I come from a sovereign woman, you know, and I was homeschooled until I was in the 10th grade. I had a very kind of free upbringing, so I really didn't understand boxes very well. I didn't. I tried. I couldn't. And so the more I got comfortable with, you know, being all of who God intended for me to be, everything just fell into place. Everything fell into place, and yeah, here I am.
So, for your music, when you use your art and your music, I mean, to show up, yeah, to show and tell our story? How did you decide? Did you decide that's what, or was that just how the music called you?
Definitely the music called me that way. It was something, yeah, deep calling from the inside, stories that needed to be told. I didn't see myself anywhere. I couldn't find myself anywhere. I had been looking for a label or a manager or a leader, a place where I could fit, where I belonged, and I never found it. So I said, I have to create it.
Yeah.
That's why I can't find it, because I'm the creator of it. And so when I found myself, right, so I had to just find that comfort in being myself. And then I knew I had to create it. And that's why I created like University Studies, my educational platform. And like one of the first times that I told you, my mother's indigenous and African. And the first time I did Tiny Desk, I knew that I wanted to bring all the pieces of myself together on a major platform. So when I would go to the powwows, I would sing traditional Native songs with my mother. If I would go to the Kwanzaa program, I would sing Wade in the Water, and I would sing Sweet Honey in the Rock songs. And then I'd go to the nightclubs and I'd battle rappers, But all those parts hadn't really come together. And I would go to all the protests and I'd perform there. And when I did Tiny Desk, my own Tiny Desk in 2018, I really wanted to create a piece that would explain all the pieces of who I was, because it was so hard when people would say, who are you and what do you do? What do you do? And I needed to also kind of separate the doing from the being, because they are two separate things, And that was the first time I brought the Native culture, the African culture, the hood, the Islam, all the cultural communities that I had grown up in, these really, really brave women that I had come from who, I say they cut and shoot and don't say sorry later. Short-tempered and easily provoked. Truly. But they paved this way where there was no way. They paved a way, and they went where there was no path, and they left behind a trail, And so I knew that was the work for me to do as well. That was the work I had to pick up. And surely they did it in a time that was much more dangerous, for them. And so that's what I knew I had to do. And I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I didn't even tell the other musicians in my band exactly what I was doing, because I didn't want anyone to have an opinion about it. But I knew it had to be done. And so I pulled all those pieces of my full self and experience together and delivered it all at once. And the feedback was, man, it was so powerful. I was so grateful. You never know who's going to, connect to something an experience that you think is personal.
Right.
And it was very universal.
You mentioned, so let me ask you, when you were writing that song, Say My Name is the song we're talking about with your performance on Tiny Desk. You brought all these pieces together, but how did you write it? Did it flow? Was it hard? I mean, talk about the process of writing that piece.
So Say My Name, that's the third song? I don't know. Somewhere in the set. But so Say My Name, the initial song I was speaking about was a song called Ink Bata. Say My Name is a song that I wrote as a tribute to Sandra Bland.
Yes.
And I feel like it was a song that wrote itself. I remember reading the YouTube comments about her arrest. And all I was seeing was people finding a reason that her arrest and her death was her fault. And it was disturbing, stomach-wrenching, the lack of empathy off the back for this woman's life. And the more I studied and watched some of her other YouTube clips, it just sat with me. Like, I couldn't let it go. Like, I remember later on that day, driving in the Southwest and the police siren came on, and I just panicked and pulled over. I just parked just in case. I'm going to just park. And I was sitting in the car crying, and I was like, what can I do? I wanted to show her heart. I feel like music has this really beautiful ability to make you forget what your biases and your opinions are and your positions and your side of the aisle, and makes you just feel. It connects you deeper with your humanity. And so I said, how can I want to create sounds and tones and textures that will make you feel her heart. It'll make you feel her humanity. And whatever you thought about her, or if you thought she was mouthy, or whatever your biases and your preconceived notions, however you feel about black women, in that moment, you were going to have to suspend that. Because this heart chakra energy was going to be it was going to burst you wide open and reach inside of you and make you care. And so I sat with it, and I reached into our tradition of doo-wop. You know, is a musical tradition where we sing over those who have passed away already. My uncle was a doo-wop singer from Chicago by way of Mississippi, right? So, you know, they would get in a circle, pour out a little liquor, and they would sing these harmonies and just moan. They would do this moaning together. And when you heard it, you had to feel connected to it, you know? It reached inside of you. And so that's where I started it with this doo-wop, this just moaning. We just moaned for a while before we ever even got into the lyrics of the song. And then I wrote it in first person. I started with, if I should die tomorrow at the hands of the policeman, ooh, and the papers say we're gonna call it a suicide, would you even question why? Ooh, and all the other background singers jumping. And it becomes this whole pouring. It's the way I remember hearing my mother, my grandmother, my uncles, you know, just coming home from a long day, just trying to let it out, just pour it out, just wipe it off, you know, and they would just moan together. And so that's what I felt like Sandra needed us to moan for her. She needs somebody to moan over her, you know, her love, her life, her body, and feel, empathize, give her value. You know what I mean? Give her her value in who she was. And her mom reached out to me.
Her mom is phenomenal.
Her mom reached out to me when she heard this. And it's just been a powerful experience channeling that. And she asked me to perform it. She said, wherever you go, perform this song. I said, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Ooh. I'm just, ooh. I'll tell you. It makes me so emotional. You mentioned Sandra's mother. So there was a group of women in 2016, not to get political, but we call them the mothers of the movement. And it was Sandra's mother. It was a whole host of these black mothers who had lost their children at the hands of police. And I remember a meeting with one of them, and this is part of why what you're saying is just so powerful. And what they said was, you know, the first bit of news that is ever told about our children depicts them as criminals, as bad people, as they were in the wrong. And it starts by dehumanizing them. And that the challenge then that these women find they face, and Sandra's mother has talked about this too, is trying to humanize them, and trying to make sure that the media has pictures of them so that we see they were just people. They were children. I mean, I remember the first time I really saw a picture of Trayvon Martin, I'm like, that's a child, right? And so the power of your music and your art and your voice to transform, as you said, through those biases, to just see her. But also to see an experience that so many of us have either had or are terrified of having, or having people we love experience. Talk a little bit, so you were, the reaction, you talked about her mother, but that was such a powerful, some would say, documenting the Black Lives Matter movement, documenting what we were feeling and thinking. Can you talk a little bit about the response more broadly to that, and sort of how that has impacted your career from that moment?
Yeah, I'm always so humbled. I'm so humbled when Because the whole, the reason I teach freedom songs, right? I teach the history of freedom songs, the intended purpose, right? I love John Lewis talks about it so eloquently about how it was the pulse of the movement, how it kept you inspired, it kept you encouraged, it lifted your spirit up and helped you push on another day. And so I always love when it reaches its intended purpose. I teach through the Recording Academy. We have a social impact committee, and we do workshops on songs for social change. It is a particular skill set because you're starting with the end in mind, right? Some writing is just about your own creative process, you're journaling. Maybe it's, therapeutic for you. But when we are intentionally trying to invoke empathy, a deeper connection with your own humanity, we want you to see yourself in the shoes of someone else. When we want to connect your experience to another experience that maybe you don't have any, cultural understanding of or knowledge of, it's a very specific, it's targeted. It's a reason why we're doing this. And so when it lands, it's always it's a wonderful thing. It's a celebration because we don't know. Well, we know we start with that intention, I wanted to honor her spirit. And I wanted to reach those who were commenting on YouTube, who had this callous feeling about her life, and the song really resonated for several years, with so many, and became almost this. I remember, Angela Rye used this song, and she was just saying like, this is embodying this pulse. It's embodying and documenting this feeling that we're all having when we say her name. It's ugly and it's beautiful and it's raw and it's urgent. And it's steep in our culture. That's why it was important for me I utilize doo-wop, and then in the second half I utilize hip hop, really trying to connect the musical lineage, so it's if I wasn't an artist, I'd be an anthropologist because I love history and culture, and I love connecting those kinds of dots. And
So you mentioned the Social Impact Committee, and I'm going to make sure I say this right. So you are governor of the DC chapter of the Recording Academy and an ambassador for the Black Music Collective. How about that? And so I want to talk about, we were chatting about this a little bit before, as co-chair of the Social Impact Committee, you spearheaded a campaign to create a new category for the Grammy Awards around Best Song for Social Change, which is going to be introduced at the next Grammy Awards.
Absolutely. That's right. First time ever. Yes, thank you all. First time in history. Myself, another artist from DC named Wayna, NYU professor Carlos Chinieros. We worked on this proposal, to honor artists who, like Billie Holiday, sacrificed their whole career to help bring awareness about lynching in the South. For people who were saying you're making that up, that's not happening. And music did that, and so many more issues. Music has the ability to bring awareness about so many different subject matters. And we felt like it needed to be honored specifically for the artists who sometimes jeopardize their livelihoods, their careers, sometimes their well-being to be able to bring these messages to the forefront. And, so it passed.
Yeah.
It passed a few days ago, and it'll be the first time. Yep, a new category, Best Song for Social Change. Yep.
So let's talk about that, because maybe you could, for those who are in their industry trying to think about how do you, we were, so much of these conversations about Black women lead, or how when we're in the room, when we're at the table, we get to change the way decisions are made. We get to bring our lived experience. And you brought into the awareness of the committee the need for this category. And it makes me think, for people who may be watching online or want to understand how to use their voice to create change in their institution or their industry, what advice would you give to people?
Well, the first thing I would say is find something that you're so passionate about, you can't ignore it. You can't not do it, because it's going to be a long journey. It's going to be a long journey when you're really trying to change society. You're trying to change whatever the norms are. what the standards are. You know, it's always funny when people say, well, this is standard. Well, I don't care. That doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. It should have never worked. So out the window with that we go. But yeah, you know, make sure it's something that it's the hill you're ready to die on. You know what I mean? The sword that you don't mind falling on, because it's going to take everything that you've got to see this thing through. And it has to mean that much to you, you know, that you are willing to sacrifice whatever you have to sacrifice so that the road ahead is easier for the next person coming behind you. That's how you push culture forward. It has to be bigger than you. You know, if it's not bigger than you, it's not big enough and it's not worth it. You're going to give up when it gets too hard. You know, you're going to conform, you know, for the right amount of money. You're going to, you know, to fold. So it has to be something that you can't do without, you know, something that your children can't do without, you know, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to see this thing through to the end. So that's what I would say to them.
That's okay. I mean, I can't top that. You're exactly right. It has to come from your spirit, what's on your heart, what's on your spirit, what's on your soul. And so I want to talk about your latest album, Queen of Culture, to that end, because you talk about self-determination, entrepreneurship, generating generational wealth, education, but also you talk about spiritual foundation. And so much of what you were just saying in terms of how to find what is inspiring to you and bring change is connected to our spiritual foundation. So I wonder if you would talk about or explain or expand on spiritual development and that personal evolution and healing as being center and core parts of our movement.
Oh, yeah. You know, a lot of people ask me, how do you not get burned out from doing this work? Right? And to me, it really is about your spiritual foundation. It is about how much self-care work that we do, you know, and doing it from a place of joy. So we're constantly stalking ourselves, unearthing ourselves to find out where's the joy in this, where's the love in this, right? Because love is endless. It is a cup that's always refilling itself. So when we're doing it from a place of love, it's, you know, inexhaustible. When we're doing it from ego, from anger, from other things, that gets draining, that gets, you know, but when we're constantly pouring from that place of love, and I do think, you know, God is love. And so your spiritual foundation, I believe from my own personal experiences, is where that cup gets filled up. That's where you get refilled. When that is not happening, then it's going to be easy to be drained by this work that we're doing, you know, by the very nature of who we were born to be, you know, the bodies that we were born into, the time that we were born into. So for me, the personal development work, the healing, the stalking yourself, when you find yourself triggered by things that maybe you don't want to be triggered by. You want to have a better understanding about why did that hurt so bad? You know, why did I need to say that or to do that? Or why did I self-sabotage just now? You know, or why did I trip that other person up just now? You understand what I'm saying? That personal work helps us to be whole enough to show up, because this work that we're doing requires us to be more than the sum of our parts. So the work on the internal level has to be done. It has to be done, or we're not going to be able to show up whole as we need to be to really do this work some justice.
So we have to wrap up, and I have two more questions. It's so powerful what you're saying, but I'm wondering, how do you do that? Because it's so hard to keep yourself centered and grounded and to show up for the work. And so I'm wondering, in your experience, was it hard to center the activism, to say, I'm going to do it differently? And who, other than your spiritual foundation, because I think we all have our village, we all have our set, right? Our folks that are going to ride or die. Who does that for you?
Oh, it's definitely my mother, was my grandmother, my son. You know, I'm an activist first before I'm an artist. You know, if I didn't know how to sing, I would still do this work. I'd find another way to do it, because that's where my heart is, right? My son is the same way. I saw it when he was a small child, you know, how he always bucks the system. He says, wait a minute, this is inconsistent. If you said this, then how come that? And that's not going to fly. No, we're going to have to, you know, he was that person when he was 5. I said, oh, yeah, he got it in him. You know, this is his calling. And for some people, I think it's just their calling. You can't not do it. And I also think that the grounding has to come first. See, we do grounding as when I'm real tired after I've done everything else. Oh, let me go ground a little bit. Let me go stick my feet in the dirt real quick. How long I gotta do this? Let me go Google. How long you say you gotta do this for this to work? It has to be first. It doesn't come after, right? So all that is physical started mental, right? Started spiritual. It's a spiritual manifestation that comes into the physical reality. And we think we can do all the physical stuff and then do the spiritual stuff as a little sprinkle on later on as a garnishing. That, and no, it's not. That's the meat. That's the meat. It won't work unless that's the meat. Your grounding has to be the meat. That's what you start your day with. That's the center from which all other things spring. You know, when I realized that money don't come from man, because God is abundant, it changed everything for me. Oh, okay, I had it switched around. I didn't get it. So yeah, you burnt out, and yeah, you're confused because your root is wrong. The center, you're not centering the right thing. So everything that you make in your aftermath, we got to bring that, and it has to be first. It can't be when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to check all my emails before I'm going to talk to God and say thank you before I'm going to do my gratitude. No, it has to be the other way around. And everything else will come into center, right? When your center is center. You get what I'm saying? So that's really, really, really imperative. And then it gets simple after that. It gets simple after that. It really does. When your basic routine, how you're centering yourself remains consistent. You know, if you're not going to skip a day showering or a day doing your makeup or a day doing your hair or a day, you know, if you're not going to skip those things or washing your car, then don't forget to wash your spirit. Start with that, you know.
Woof, right? I feel like that is such a beautiful place to leave it. And I want to thank you. Are such a beautiful spirit. You are just, thank you for just so much wisdom and wonderful kindness of spirit and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.